The Republic is torn apart. A resurgent Sith Empire, headed by Darths Revan and Malak, struck like lightning from the unknown regions and conquered more than 1/3 of the galaxy. Now Revan's memory is wiped, in hopes he can become the secret weapon the Republic needs in the war against Darth Malak. This is the story of Revan's redemption and the chaotic years after his and Malak's invasion. It is a time of great struggle for the Jedi Order as well, for its knights have been badly shaken following the fall of several of their brightest to the dark side. In this video, the saga of these conflicts continues, in the form of the video games Knights of the Old Republic and Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords. Additionally, I will include a recap of the book Revan, written by Drew Karpyshyn. The format of this video will be a bit different for several reasons. As I want to cover everything chronologically, the order of everything will be Knights of the Old Republic, Part 1 of Revan, then Knights of the Old Republic 2, followed by Part 2 of Revan. This will cover the conclusion to the Jedi Civil War and the fall of Darth Malak, and the redemption of Revan and his second imprisonment on Dromund Kaas. It will conclude with the trials of Revan's greatest general, Meetra Surik, the Jedi Exile. There will be no gameplay in this video, as I do not have access to the games. Consequently, I have relied on YouTube playthroughs and the Wookiepedia articles on the main characters and the games themselves for reference. I chose to focus more so on the broader story and lore, so as a result not every small detail in the games will be covered, and in this video only the light side storylines will be recapped, as they are more canon, albeit less fun, with regards to the Star Wars EU. With all that out of the way, let's dive in. Darth Malak ambushes the ship Endar Spire above Terrace, relentlessly hunting the Jedi Bastila Shan. During the attack, Revan awakens in his quarters to the chaos of the Sith boarding the ship. He has no memory of his past, and believes himself to be a simple soldier for the Republic. His bunkmate, Trask Olgo, bursts in, urging him to get dressed quickly. After gearing up, the two leave their quarters and head out to find Shan, following orders to ensure her safety. Along the way, they receive a call from Captain Cartho Nasi, who requests reinforcements at the bridge. Entering the next hallway, Revan and Olgo encounter Sith troopers, engaging them in battle and defeating them. As they progress, Revan and Olgo face waves of Sith troopers, eventually stumbling upon a duel between a Jedi and a Dark Jedi. Following Olgo's advice, they stay back, watching as the Jedi gains the upper hand, only to perish in a sudden explosion. Unable to locate Shan at the bridge, the two rush towards the escape pods to avoid being caught in the ship's destruction. Along the way, they are confronted by Darth Bandon, Darth Malak's apprentice. Olgo bravely charges Bandon, sealing the door behind him and shouting for Revan to reach the escape pods. Revan navigates the ship's corridors, guided by Cartho Nasi, who tracks him through the ship's life support systems. Onasi informs him that Shan has already escaped, and that they are the last remaining crew aboard. Revan finally reaches the escape pods, boarding the last alongside Onasi, and they escape moments before the Endar Spire explodes. Their escape pod crash lands in Terrace's upper city, rendering Revan unconscious for several days. Onasi drags him to a safe hiding spot in an abandoned apartment within the South apartment complex. During his unconscious state, Revan is haunted by a disturbing vision of Shan battling Dark Jedi aboard his former flagship. When Revan finally awakens, Onasi briefs him on their situation, explaining the urgency of finding Shan, who likely survived the crash. She is gifted with the powers of battle meditation, a formidable talent that would be devastating in the hands of Malak. Setting out together, they encounter a Sith soldier conducting a brutal raid in their building. The soldier executes a Duros resident, forcing Revan and Onasi to intervene. After eliminating the soldier and his droids, Revan reassures another resident, who promises to conceal the bodies to avoid further Sith scrutiny. Exploring the apartments, the pair gather information, including directions to the upper city cantina and equipment shops. As they make their way into the upper city, Revan and Onasi encounter a variety of characters, including a xenophobic man preaching anti-alien sentiments and bounty hunters threatening a merchant. Revan diffuses conflicts wherever possible and offers aid to those in need, including paying off a merchant's debt to spare him from further harassment. To reach the Undercity first, Revan and Onasi need authorization papers to bypass Sith troopers blocking the elevator. In the apartments, they intervene in a Sith interrogation of an Aqualish, defeating the Sith troopers. The Aqualish reveal they are supplying uniforms to the hidden Beck and suggest Revan meet their leader, Gadon Thek. After acquiring disguises from the fallen Sith, they explore further, assisting various individuals, including Largo, whom Revan helps pay off a debt. Revan also visits the Upper City Cantina, participating in several death matches to win money. He purchases a T3H8 droid, which quickly malfunctions, and learns of a Rakghoul serum. It is carried by Sith patrols in the Undercity as protection against a rampant plague. Eventually, he and Onasi are able to obtain Sith uniforms, and now disguised as soldiers, they enter the lower city, which is rife with gang violence between the hidden Becks and Black Volcars. They see Kalo Nord kill 3 Black Volcars in a cantina, and make their way to the hidden Beck's base. They meet with their leader, Gadon Thek, and ask about the escape pods from the Endar Spire. They learn the Black Volcars have already looted them, and have taken Shan as a prisoner. However, they do not know her full identity, and she is only believed to be a Republic officer, and is consequently being offered as a prize in an upcoming swoop bike race. He will sponsor Revan in the swoop race if he steals the Beck's prototype accelerator from the Volcars. In the Undercity, they encounter outcasts from Terrace and learn of a villager named Rukil who seeks something called the Promised Land. It is an alleged colony in the Undercity that offers safe haven from the Rakghouls, but its location is kept secret by the inhabitants. He finds Mission Val and learns she will help him get into the Volcar's base if he rescues Zalbar, her Wookiee partner. As the search begins, Revan, Onasi, and Val encounter a group of thugs led by the Mandalorian Canderous Ordo, an enforcer for the crime lord Davik Kang. The two groups are forced to fight alongside each other when attacked by Rakghouls. Revan retrieves Rukil's journals and finds Rakghoul serum from the body of a Sith trooper, which he uses to cure villagers. Zalbar is found and the Wookiee swears a life debt to Revan in gratitude. Rukil decides to lead the outcasts out to find the Promised Land, and Revan returns to the sewers, where Val says there is an access point to the Volcar base. They manage to infiltrate the base and kill a Rancor, learning where the accelerator is from a gang member who wishes to defect. Revan fights through the Volcars and steals the accelerator, returning to the Upper City where he delivers the Rakghoul serum to a doctor who can begin synthesizing. He then takes the accelerator to the hidden Beck base in the lower city, and prepares to enter the swoop race. Revan wins the race, but the Black Volcars confront him, knowing full well he stole their accelerator. However, at the same time, Bastila Shan is brought forth in a cage. She manages to escape her restraints and begins to fight the Volcars alongside Revan. They kill them all, but Shan is particularly cold towards Revan until Karth Onasi shows up and speaks up for him. As they make plans to leave Terrace, both Bastila and Revan have a vision of her battling Dark Jedi and Darth Revan, though Revan himself still remains unaware of his dark past in the Jedi Civil War. Bastila, who knows who Revan really is hesitant to tell him of his Force sensitivity and proposes they fly to Dantooine and consult the Jedi Council. They then receive a message from the Mandalorian Canderous Ordo, who is looking to escape Terrace. With his help, they would steal the ship of Davik Kang and acquire the codes to bypass the Sith blockade. Revan acquires the droid T3M4 and heads to the military base. The team fights through Sith troopers and encounters the Sith governor, who is Force sensitive. He attacks Revan, who quickly dispatches him. They are able to find the codes and return to a cantina to rendezvous with Ordo. Canderous takes Revan to Davik's estate, with Revan posing as a potential new recruit. They manage to break away for the hangar, freeing Kang's pilot in exchange for the launch codes of the Crime Lord's ship. Just then, however, Darth Malak in orbit above gives orders for Admiral Sal Kara to begin bombarding Terrace. The Sith is impatient with the lack of progress towards finding Bastila, and Terrace begins to be razed. Revan is attacked by Kang and Kalo Nord, who seek to escape the bombardment. He kills Kang, but Nord throws a detonator as he is buried under the rubble. Revan and Canderous narrowly escape in the ship, and manage to pick up their companions and jump to Dantooine. They arrive at the planet, where Bastila walks out by herself to meet with the Masters of the Council. They later ask to meet with Revan, and also obviously know of his true identity. Revan meets Master Zar Lestin, who informs him they are considering training him as a Padawan. Master Vrook, however, is more skeptical and ominously worries the Sith may return if Revan is trained. Later, Revan has another vision, unknowingly of himself and Malak exploring ancient ruins and discussing something called the Star Forge. He is summoned again to meet the Council, and learns that Bastila had the same dream. It speaks to a unique connection in the Force between the two, leading the Masters to believe their destinies are intertwined. Revan is accepted into the Order, and begins training with the Masters and Bastila for several weeks. He progresses rapidly, passing several trials. Revan also redeems the fallen Padawan Juhani, convincing her to release her anger and return to the Order. He is formally inducted as a Padawan with Bastila as his master, and is assigned to investigate ruins that may correspond with his vision, and to ascertain the true nature of the dreams. Revan journeys to the ruins with Bastila, where they learn the ruins could guide them to something called the Star Forge. They find a mysterious map, which Bastila quietly realizes was found by Revan and Malak years ago. It seems to guide them to several other worlds, including Manaan, Korriban, and Kashyyyk, though some of the pieces are missing. Returning to the Council, Revan and Bastila are then ordered to find the rest of the star maps, which are believed to be the key to stopping Darth Malak. They meet up again with Canderous Ordo and Cartho Nasi, and set course first for Tatooine. Revan and Bastila have another vision that guides them to a cave, but they are first tasked with resolving the local conflict with the Sand People. They purchase HK-47, an assassin droid, and are able to find a peaceful solution to the conflict by gifting the Tusken Raiders some moisture vaporators. In exchange, they are given a map to the next fragment. After killing a crate dragon, Revan and Bastila are then confronted by Kalo Nord. However, they kill the bounty hunter once and for all, and are able to leave with the map. Up next is Kashyyyk, where it turns out Zalbar is brothers with a local chieftain. The chieftain Chundar is also secretly in league with the mining corporation that enslaves Wookiees, and blackmails Revan into tracking down a Wookiee that has gone insane in the Shadowlands. Zalbar is kept as a hostage, and Revan and his companions enter the Shadowlands, a remote area filled with dangerous creatures, to find the Wookiee and hopefully the next fragment. After dispatching several poachers, Revan discovers the Wookiee they're searching for is actually Zalbar and Chundar's exiled father. The father, Freyr, helps them retrieve Bacca's ceremonial blade, which he plans to use to challenge Chundar. Revan then encounters a Sith computer, which asks him several questions as a test. Though he fails and gives answers that only align with the light side, the computer scans his brain and deduces that Revan, surprisingly, is the only person allowed to access the star map. They return to the village, where Freyr leads his loyalists in a vicious battle against Chundar. Chundar and his Wookiees are killed, and Zalbar is freed and allowed back into the village. Elsewhere, Darth Malak learns of Kalo Nord's death and sends his apprentice Darth Bandon after Bastila. Revan's team then heads to the ocean world of Manaan, where they believe the next fragment is somewhere on the ocean floor. The ambassador for the Republic, Roland Wan, agrees to help them if they retrieve a captured probe droid from the Sith embassy. Revan infiltrates the embassy and retrieves the droid. He is captured and narrowly avoids being arrested and put on trial through the powers of Force persuasion, and later learns from Wan the droid had been investigating an illegal harvesting plant. Apparently, the plant went off the grid after discovering an ancient artifact. Revan and his friends travel to the plant in Wan's submersible, discovering a crazed mercenary claiming the local Selkath had been going on killing sprees since the artifact was excavated. He finds head scientist Kono Nolan and his aide, the only survivors in the facility. They tell him of a manic Varaxan shark, and Revan destroys a harvesting machine, calming it. He is able to find the fragment, but returns to his team to find that Darth Bandon and 2 Dark Jedi have arrived. Revan duels Bandon, and emerges victorious as the rest of the Dark Jedi are killed. However, as they leave Manan, Admiral Karath arrives in the Leviathan and captures their ship in a tractor beam. Revan, Bastila, and Cartho Nasi are imprisoned and interrogated, where they learn the Dantooine Jedi Academy has been destroyed. Though many masters were able to escape, the great center of learning was razed. Then, one of Revan's team who managed to escape infiltrates the ship and frees everyone. Canderous readies their escape ship, while Revan, Bastila, and Karth move to disable the shields preventing them from fleeing. They make their way to the bridge, where they find Admiral Karath, gloating that Malak's arrival is imminent. A battle breaks out, and Karath is mortally wounded. But with his dying breaths, he pulls in Cartho Nasi and whispers the truth about Revan in his ear. Karth confronts Bastila, who promises to explain everything later. Revan is clueless, but then Darth Malak himself arrives. Malak recognizes Revan, who remains confused as ever. Revan is floored as Malak tells him the truth of who he really is, and a force stasis shield is cast over Karth and Bastila. Revan and Malak duel, and Bastila eventually manages to free herself. She confronts Malak and urges Revan and Karth to flee, closing the doors behind them. Revan and Karth make it back to Canderous and escape, and it turns out by sheer coincidence the droid HK-47 was originally owned by Revan. The team comes to terms with the revelations surrounding Revan, who now knows he was the hero and scourge of the Jedi and Republic. They head for Korriban, the location of the last piece of the star map. They are forced to land near a Sith Academy, and Revan poses as a new recruit to get close to the fragment. He becomes embroiled in a conspiracy to assassinate Uthar Wynn, the head of the Academy, at the behest of his lieutenant Yuthura Ban. Revan becomes more entrenched in the Academy, and eventually heads off to explore the tomb of the ancient Sith Lord Ajunta Pa. The spirit of Ajunta has endured due to its hate, but Revan is able to persuade the Sith to seek redemption. Ajunta fades away, with Revan having redeemed another being of the dark side. Over time, Revan is able to gain prestige within the Academy, and as a reward is granted access to the tomb of Naga Sadow. There he discovers the last fragment as the conspiracy unfolds. Uthar Wynn is killed, and Revan decides to spare Ban after she betrays him. He kills the rest of the students as he leaves the tomb, and returns to his friends on the Ebon Hawk. At long last, they set out for the Starforge. A power disruption causes them to crash land prematurely, but Cartho Nasi manages to transmit the location of the Starforge to the Republic. It turns out the planet they landed on is littered with other crashed ships, and is actually inhabited by the ancient Rakata species. The remnants of the Rakatan Infinite Empire from millennia ago have now fractured into several tribes. The Elders are one, and are warring with the primitive Black Rakata. Both had past dealings with Revan in which he betrayed them both, and now he decides to try and work with the Elders. He rescues several who were kidnapped by the Black Rakatans, and is allowed to enter the Temple of the Ancients. Here is where the source of the power disruption lies, and at the last moment 2 Jedi decide to accompany Revan inside. However, as they venture deeper, Bastila Shan appears. She has fallen to the dark side and now serves Darth Malak, who tortured her and exploited her love of Revan to corrupt her. Revan is forced to duel Bastila, who is taken aback by his strength and decrees him the true Dark Lord of the Sith. She offers to bend the knee to him, but Revan rejects her. She flies away as Revan and his companions depart for the Starforge. The Republic has also assembled its fleet en masse and flown to the Starforge, where the decisive battle of the Jedi Civil War will take place. Admiral Foran Dodonna controls the fleet and is accompanied by Master Vandar Tokair. Both are dismayed at the fall of Bastila Shan to the dark side, and she uses her powers of battle meditation to devastating effect against the Republic. As the Battle of Rakata Prime unfolds, the Sith quickly gain the upper hand as Revan and the Ebon Hawk join the fray. A team of Jedi is quickly assembled by Master Vendare to infiltrate the Starforge and interrupt Bastila's battle meditation. Led by Revan, they battle waves of Malak's battle droids, Sith troopers, and Dark Jedi. However, in the chaos, Revan becomes separated from everyone and soon encounters Bastila. They battle once more, but Revan is too strong. Bastila is forced to surrender, and she begs for death. But Revan will not kill the woman he now loves, and in doing so, redeems Bastila. She turns against Malak and the Sith, using her battle meditation to help the Republic once more. Revan moves on to confront his former apprentice Malak. Malak has imprisoned several Jedi, and now attempts to siphon Force energy from them as they die, but is stopped by Revan. Savior, conqueror, hero, villain. You are all things, Revan, and yet you are nothing. In the end, you belong to neither the light nor the darkness. You will forever stand alone. They begin to duel, and Revan frees more captive Jedi to prevent Malak from revitalizing himself. Though Malak is the reigning Dark Lord of the Sith, the power of Revan is unmatched. Malak is mortally wounded, and as he falls, he expresses regret for falling to the dark. Malak dies bearing no resentment towards Revan, who he recognizes as the superior being in power all along. I wanted to be master of the Sith and ruler of the galaxy, but that destiny was not mine, Revan. It might have been yours, perhaps, but never mine. And in the end, as the darkness takes me, I am nothing. The Starforge is destroyed by the Republic and falls into the nearby sun. The Republic wins the war, and the Sith become scattered throughout the galaxy once more. Revan's team is awarded the Cross of Glory, and the wreckage of ships and the Starforge begins to orbit around Rakata Prime in a vast ring. The world is sealed off by the Republic, and is declared a historical zone. Revan is then re-inducted into the Jedi Order as the Prodigal Knight. Revan awakens from yet another nightmare for the third night in a row, this time of a dark, stormy planet filled with lightning and thunder. It has been 2 years since his redemption, and he does not know if the dreams are visions of the past or future. His memories are still fragmented at best, and he is now in a perpetual struggle to retrace his journey of Jedi to Sith to redeemed. Revan, Jedi, hero, traitor, conqueror, villain, savior. He was all these things and more. He was a living legend, the embodiment of myth and folklore, a figure that transcended history. For Revan was a hero of the Mandalorian Wars, winning devastating victories for the Republic with the help of his apprentice Malak. Yet in the twilight of the war, they had journeyed to the edge of the galaxy and returned to the Republic as conquerors, servants of the dark side and unseen Sith Lords. During the Jedi Civil War, Malak betrayed Revan, who was taken by the Jedi Council. His memories were erased, and he was turned back to the light and was able to defeat Malak. His wife, Bastila Shan, was instrumental in orchestrating Revan's capture and redemption. But now Revan remains troubled, for he cannot remember how exactly he and Malak were turned to the dark. In his heart, he senses there is more to it than the Republic's account of the 2 Jedi being corrupted by the Starforge. Revan knows they found something dark and sinister out beyond the Outer Rim, and thinks his nightmares may hold a clue. Sith Lord Scourge disembarks his shuttle on the stormy, gloomy homeworld of the Sith Empire. He has lived on the planet engulfed by the dark side for 10 years, and now strides towards Kaas City. Scourge takes note of the massive citadel in its center, the seat of power for the Emperor and his Dark Council composed of 12 powerful Sith Lords. Scourge has been campaigning for the Empire for 2 years after graduating from the Academy, forging a formidable reputation on the battlefield. He has now been summoned back to Dromund Kaas at the behest of Darth Malak, and is eager to begin his ascent into true power. Scourge, a pure-blooded Sith, is approached by Satchel, one of the natural Sith unfortunately cursed with low Force affinity. He is disgusted at Satchel, and also knows that Nyra sending him as an aide is a subtle message. Nyra herself is secluded in her palace, the result of several recent assassination attempts. Scourge strides towards a speeder, cutting a powerful and imposing figure. He passes several subjugates, off-world visitors and dignitaries, as well as slaves and enlisted members of the military. All part for him except for two human mercenaries, who stare defiantly at Scourge until Satchel hurriedly ushers them aside. Scourge travels to Nyra's compound on the outskirts of the city, knowing he will be eventually tasked with uprooting the masterminds behind the attempted killings. Upon arriving, however, Satchel reveals that his summoning was done at the behest of the Emperor, not Nyra herself. His meager reception now makes sense, as his presence suggests the Emperor believes Nyra to be incapable of handling the investigation on her own. Scourge now knows he is in a dangerous political position, and turns as the speeder begins to scream towards him. The speeder opens fire, and Scourge is able to destroy it as he recognizes its pilots as the mercenaries from earlier. He kills one and begins to interrogate the other. However, she is shot in the back by Nyra's security team, who at last allow him to enter the compound. Scourge walks towards Nyra's chambers, noticing the lavish artifacts and bounty of ancient manuscripts collected by his new overseer. Scourge wonders who is behind the attack, knowing that Nyra is also advanced in the field of Sith sorcery. Nyra approaches him and begins to question him about the attack outside. Scourge confides that he suspects Murtaugh, her head of security, but Nyra quickly tells him she was behind the attack. Scourge is disappointed that he didn't see her plan, but is reassured by her that the events have established his competency and that he has no allegiances to the other political factions on Dromund Kaas. He is immediately given his next mission, which will be to escort Satchel to a droid manufacturing plant on Halion. The previous assassination attempt on Nyra was through a duplicate serving droid, and she intends to find the perpetrators as soon as possible. Back on Coruscant, Revan walks through the streets in anonymity towards the Dealer's Den, a seedy cantina. He reunites with the Mandalorian Canderous Ordo, an old partner of war who helped him defeat Darth Malak. The Mandalorians, after their devastating defeat in the Mandalorian Wars at the hands of Revan, have been scattered across the galaxy and forced to work as mercenaries. Ordo acknowledges their defeat, but languishes at the diminishing of his people. Revan, looking to unlock more of his memories, asks Ordo about why Mandalore the Ultimate would push for an all-out war against the Republic in the first place. Meanwhile, Scourge and Satchel, who has begun to surprise him with his cunning and intelligence, reach an Uxial droid manufacturing plant on Halion. Scourge senses something is off about the mission, but Satchel urges him to carry on. So he steels himself and runs towards the security gate, destroying a patrol drone. He opens the gate and lets Satchel in, and the two make their way to the records office. Their access code fails, and an impatient Scourge impulsively cuts the door open with his lightsaber. Alarms begin to wail, and Satchel frantically starts trying to slice into the computers as Scourge prepares to hold off more drones. He fights off the drones, but several massive assault droids arrive. He begins to flee, but Satchel manages to turn off the power and the droids deactivate. They flee, making it out of the factory just as the reactors destabilize and explode. Several weeks later, Revan enters the Jedi Temple, reflecting on how his redemption, as well as Bastila Shan's, has resulted in some Jedi leaving the Order and rejecting its traditional teachings. Revan himself disagrees with their tenets regarding emotional attachment, believing it was his love and emotional bond with Bastila that had saved both of them. To Revan, emotions like love and happiness should not be squashed, but celebrated by the Jedi as ways to strengthen their connection to the Force. After his redemption, he had offered to teach the Council these new understandings, but they were staunchly traditional and were not willing to bend their world views. Revan is looking for the Jedi Meetra Surik, one of the first revanchists and eventually his top general in the Mandalorian War. She had not followed Revan and Malak into the unknown regions after the war, instead returning to Coruscant to face the judgment of the High Council. There, Meetra was declared a traitor and banished from the Order, and has not been in contact with Revan since. He walks into the archives and is recognized by Atris, a former friend of Meetra's who disapproves of Revan and his tactics in the war. He asks her of Meetra's whereabouts and learns that she was in extremely close proximity to the mass shadow generator detonated on Malachor 5. She was nearly overwhelmed by the deaths around her, and to save herself, Meetra cut herself off from the Force. Elsewhere, Scourge slowly recovers from his wounds, and is eventually summoned by a Twi'lek slave to see Darth Nihilus again. He has begun to question Sechel's motives more and more, wondering if Nihilus' top aide wants him out of the way. Nihilus lectures him, saying his great strength comes from feeding off the raw emotions of fear from his opponents. Instead, he must turn that focus inwards to draw on his own anger to find power. She then reveals that Sechel was able to recover files tracing the droid back to human separatists on Bos Thurda, who want to liberate their planet from the Emperor. Nihilus believes they may have targeted her because of her rivalry with Darth Zedrix, another counselor. Scourge is sent away once more with Sechel to find the separatists and destroy them. Meanwhile, Revan meets up with Canderous Ordo again, and learns the Mandalorian chiefs are gathering on the remote world of Rekiad, where they believe the Mask of Mandalore is hidden. Revan is concerned, believing that he and Canderous should be present to ensure that if the mask is indeed found, the Mandalorians will not be driven to a war of vengeance with the Republic. He and Canderous decide to set out for Rekiad, and Revan returns to Bastila to ask her to accompany them. However, he receives the surprising news that she is pregnant. Bastila will thus stay behind, and Revan becomes determined to find the evil he senses in the unknown regions, wanting to ensure the safety of the future for his child. They arrive at Rekiad and begin searching for the meeting site of the clans. They land in a snowdrift and approach a camp at the base of a small mountain. Revan and Canderous have found Clan Ordo, Canderous' people, and are coldly greeted by their leader Vila, who is also the wife of Canderous. Revan is not recognized, and will have to stay undercover or risk invoking the wrath of the Mandalorians. Meanwhile, Scourge is accompanied on his mission by Sechel and Murtagh, and he falls out of the shadows onto the Separatists, feeding on their fear. He catches them while they're sleeping, and slaughters them with ruthless efficiency. Murtagh and Sechel, however, subtly undermine his authority and enter the compound before his signal. They are able to capture a garbled data file of Darth Zedrix, calling Nihilus dangerous and seeming to imply that a madness must be ended. This seems to confirm Zedrix's treacherous intentions to Nihilus, for she claims Zedrix knows his position is vulnerable, and as the most senior council member will look to root out his older opponents. Scourge wonders why the Emperor remains uninvolved, for surely if he had learned of Zedrix's betrayal, his own forces would have been sent out, and not those of Nihilus. Nihilus tells him they will not report Zedrix to the Emperor, a decision Scourge cannot bring himself to agree with. Nihilus then proposes that Scourge himself is sent on a stealth mission to kill Zedrix, a daunting task. But Scourge agrees, looking to further his ascension while still wondering about Nihilus' true goals. He returns to Bos Thurda and hides in a dark cavern awaiting the arrival of Darth Zedrix. The Sith Lord arrives with 2 acolytes, and Scourge lunges from the shadows in a surprise attack. But Zedrix quickly recovers and fights off Scourge as the acolytes rush in. He dispatches them easily and turns to face Zedrix once more. However, he is no match for Zedrix, who electrocutes him with Force Lightning. But Scourge manages to live, and Zedrix tries to turn him against Nihilus and nearly succeeds. But at the last moment, Scourge senses fear and desperation in the Sith Lord. He realizes Zedrix is greatly weakened, and rises and cuts him down. Scourge decides he must not speak directly with Sechel and Nihilus, to clear the cobwebs of deception from the schemes he is embroiled in. Meanwhile, Revan has another dream, this time of him and Malak searching for something on Rekiad. He speaks with Canderous and tries to convince Vila to move the camp, believing they are looking in the wrong area. Vila tells him their territory has been staked out by Clan Ordo. For years, the Mandalorians have been searching for the mask, painstakingly searching many worlds, meter by meter. Their numbers slowly grew to what they are now, and now Revan, still undercover, proposes they move to 2 columns of ice called the Twin Spears. However, they will be entering the territory of Clan Gendry. After a several-day journey, they are attacked by Clan Gendry, who have the advantage in numbers but less basilisk war droids than Clan Ordo. Revan joins the fray as Clan Gendry is driven back, and Clan Ordo begins the final push towards the Twin Spears. Elsewhere, Scourge sneaks into Satchel's quarters and begins torturing him for information. Darth Nihilus herself interrupts him and promises to reveal everything. She pulls him aside into her private chambers and immediately asks if Scourge is loyal to the Empire or Emperor. Nihilus claims the Emperor is mad and unchecked, but Scourge remains loyal to his rule and decides to play along with Nihilus in order to survive. He learns that the Sith Emperor plans to strike soon against the Jedi themselves, something that is regarded as folly by both him and Nihilus. The Sith were nearly purged during the Great Hyperspace War, and it was only by remaining hidden they had been able to rebuild their empire. Nihilus reveals that several Dark Council members share her sentiments, and that the assassination attempts on her were a ploy to throw the Emperor off. Additionally, Zedrix was one of the conspirators, but was sacrificed by Nihilus to further cover her tracks and eliminate a political rival. For better or worse, having done her dirty work for her, Scourge is also now firmly entrenched in the conspiracy. To convince him of their righteousness, Nihilus decides to take Scourge to Nathema, the ancient homeworld of the Emperor. Back on Rekiad, Revan is praised for his actions in battle. His identity of a Jedi is still a secret from most of the Mandalorians. However, during the action he was forced to quickly draw his lightsaber, which was noticed by Vila and several Basilisk pilots. They plan to climb the ascent, and Revan notices that all of the Mandalorians joining are ones who know of his affiliations. Revan reaches the summit and finds a small Durasteel hatch. He and Canderous enter, climbing down a shaft. A sudden flash of dormant memories hits Revan as they descend further, reaching a large stone chamber with a crypt. Revan somehow knows it is the tomb of an ancient Sith Lord who fled in exile. He is struck with another memory, this one of Mandalore the Ultimate, revealing the Mandalorians were manipulated into the war by the Sith. Revan opens the crypt to find a small datachron and the mask of Mandalore. Just then, Vila and the rest of the Mandalorians enter and order Revan to step away from the mask. Canderous tries to talk her down, saying Revan helped them find it in the first place, but she does not back down. The Mandalorians open fire on Canderous and Revan, and the tomb becomes a war zone. But Revan is no ordinary Jedi, and the Mandalorians are killed as Canderous shoots Vila through the heart. They make a plan to cover up the killings, and Revan tells Canderous of the Sith Lord Dramath II, a former rival of Lord Vitiate on Nathema. His father was overthrown by Vitiate, and he had fled to Rekiad with his followers. Revan must now figure out where he must go next to uncover his past, and knows the stormy world of his dreams is the key. Canderous learns how the Mandalorians were manipulated by the Sith, and worries that should they strike again, it would be through Mandalorian space. Revan then urges him to stay with his people, and to take up the mask and help the Mandalorians find their way again. After a moment of pondering, Canderous takes up the mask, declaring himself Mandalore the Preserver. Revan prepares to leave Rekiad and the new Mandalore behind, setting a course now for Nathema. Meanwhile, Scourge and Nihilus depart on a journey of absolute secrecy to Nathema, and along the way, Scourge learns of the Emperor's ruthless ascension to power and his decimation of the planet. They reach Nathema, devoid of life, the Force, and even color. Scourge is deeply disturbed, and comes to believe that the Emperor may actually declare war on the Jedi. He and Nihilus then sense another presence in the Force, and detect another ship dropping out of hyperspace. They open fire on the ship, which is piloted by Revan. Revan is overwhelmed with a resurgence of memories as he arrives and cannot evade fire from Nihilus' ship. He crash lands on the surface of Nathema and is knocked out, where he is found by the 2 Sith. Knowing full well who Revan is, they decide to take him back to Nyrus' compound for questioning. Revan thus awakens on Dromund Kaas, but does not recognize Nyrus. He is tortured for 4 hours, but Scourge learns nothing and believes that Revan has truly forgotten the information Nyrus is searching for. Nyrus is concerned that Revan, who was once imprisoned by the Emperor himself, may somehow be loyal to him as a Sith still. They do not know of Revan and Malak's war on the Jedi, only that 5 years ago Revan was detained after discovering Dromund Kaas. Nyrus wonders if he was sent back as an agent of the Emperor, perhaps as an elaborate ruse to gather more information on the Republic. She decides to keep Revan in captivity to try and learn how he was freed from the Emperor's control, a project Scourge knows may take years. Some years ago, the Jedi Kreia traveled to the planet of Malachor 5. Kreia was a historian for the Jedi Order and became known for challenging the more traditional views of the Force. She withdrew from the Jedi during the Mandalorian Wars, but did not link up with the Revanchists. Revan was a former Padawan of hers, but instead of following him in war, she decided to retrace his past. Her journey inevitably led her to Malachor 5, where she discovered his Treyas Academy. There she found ancient Sith sorcerer teachings that changed her perspective on the Force and the galaxy itself. The writings found by Kreia argued that intelligent beings see the universe as chaotic and unpredictable. But because of the divine nature of the Force and its will guiding persons and events, this is a lie. The chaos and contradictory nature of the galaxy is instead all controlled by the Force, propagating a great deception in which the Jedi and Sith are subject to its whims and disorders. Kreia then came to the conclusion that in order for there to be true self-determination and free will, the Force, as well as all the Jedi and Sith, must be destroyed. To accomplish her goals, she began to search for wounds in the Force. She thus allied with 2 formidable Sith Lords who managed to survive the Great Sith War and the Jedi Civil War, Darth Sion and Darth Nihilus. Sion was the Lord of Pain, a marauder for Exar Kun with an unprecedented pain tolerance who fell in the Great Sith War. Yet inexplicably, he rose from the dead, for Sion had discovered how to hold his dying body together with the sheer power of the dark side. He was effectively immortal, but lived in constant pain that required uninterrupted concentration to focus on and draw strength from. Darth Nihilus was the Lord of Hunger, his very essence contained only by a mask and armor. Yet his power was immense, for he fed on the essence of other beings' lives. His hunger is insatiable and constantly worsens, but Kreia offered him a way to appease his hunger by teaching him to devour entire worlds. The Jedi Order is decimated. Following decades of 3 separate galaxy-spanning wars, only a scant 100 knights remain to the fabled order. Among these few survivors is Master Atris, a historian. She has seen great philosophical upheaval in her time, stemming from the Great Sith War. Before the Jedi Civil War, Atris had already begun to question the current methods of teaching, and advocated for only a single apprentice assigned to a single master and the banning of romantic attachments. Her worries were compounded by the depletion of knowledge and learning resources for the Jedi, as the Great Library on Ossus was destroyed by Exar Kun and Ulic Qel-Droma, and the Academy on Dantooine was razed by Darth Malak. During the Mandalorian Wars as well, she disagreed with the philosophies of Revan and opposed the involvement of the Order altogether in the war. And now, faith in the Order is waning, for the Jedi are badly shaken. Several of their strongest knights have fallen to darkness and plunged the galaxy into terrible periods of pain and suffering. Their Prodigal Knight, Revan the Redeemed, has vanished into the unknown regions of space, depriving them of a symbol of hope to rally around. In the meantime, the Sith were also rebuilding themselves. A vicious power struggle had broken out in the remnants of Revan's short-lived empire. A new Sith Triumvirate came to power, headed by Darth Traya, Darth Nihilus, and Darth Sion. They hide in the shadows of the galaxy for a time, subtly spreading conflict and discord on Republic worlds. Eventually, however, Traya is betrayed by her apprentices, and Sion and Nihilus seize power and sever her connection to the Force. Jedi begin to mysteriously disappear across the galaxy, and the remaining survivors begin to feel almost as if they were being hunted. Master Atris takes the initiative, summoning many knights and masters to a secret conclave on the world of KOTR. However, she secretly leaks the location of the meeting, hoping to instead bait the mysterious threat out from the darkness. Atris gets more than she bargained for. For Darth Nihilus learned of the conclave and set out for KOTR. A survivor of Malachor V, Nihilus was a wound in the Force and a being of endless hunger. He constantly craved Force energy and sought to feed off it. Nihilus could barely be considered human, and was more so an entity of raw power and hunger barely contained in his mask and armor. He falls upon the Jedi at KOTR, ravaging the planet and killing every living being on its surface. Only Visas Mar survives, and is taken by Nihilus to be his apprentice. Of the Jedi, only Atris, who had not attended the conclave, has survived, along with 4 other remaining council members. Atris flees to Telos 4, where she attempts to rebuild a Jedi Academy with Jedi and Sith artifacts and holocrons. The council members vanish into exile, hoping the Sith threat will be lured into a false sense of victory and openly enter the galaxy. The ship Ebon Hawk arrives in the Paragus system, badly damaged. On board are 2 of Revan's droids, T3M4 and HK-47, and the unconscious humans Kreia and Meetra Surik. Kreia is a Jedi, and the former master of the Great Revan. Meetra was a famed general of Revan during the Mandalorian Wars, and of the revanchists, only she alone willingly submitted to the judgment of the High Council. Already cut off from the Force after her traumatizing experience at Malachor V, she was banished from the Order and dubbed the Exile. Now, the ship is docked at a mining facility. She finds Kreia, who seems to have awakened Meetra through the Force. She finds she has no memory as to how she lost her connection to the Force, believing instead the Masters of the High Council to be responsible. Meetra moves on to figure out how to find the Ebon Hawk and escape. The mining facility is littered with dead bodies, seemingly the result of a battle with no survivors. Kreia continues to speak in Meetra's mind, and she slowly begins to sense subtle vibrations of the Force. She frees a man named Atten Rand, who tells her an unconscious Jedi had arrived at the station earlier. The miners were tempted to detain her and turn her over to the Exchange, a criminal organization offering live bounties for members of the Order. The facility fell into conflict until a mysterious explosion knocked everyone out of commission. Meetra learns of the Jedi Civil War and the deeds of Darths Revan and Malak. Additionally, shortly after Revan was redeemed and turned against Malak, the Sith Academy on Korriban was destroyed. She and Atten set out to find their way to the hangars, where the Ebon Hawk presumably is. Meetra finds more recordings, revealing the Ebon Hawk was apparently being transported by the Republic ship Harbinger. She watches as an officer from the facility recounts the deaths of miners by strange accidents. Meetra and Atten gain access to the turbo lift, and Meetra decides to investigate the tunnels below, where Atten says the explosion came from. She makes her way to the fuel depots, picking up gear and supplies along the way. The mining droids seem to act as security, but have turned against all organic life forms. Atten remains in the control center and guides Meetra as she finds the droid control center to shut them off. Meetra finds another recording, where she learns she served at the Battle of Malachor V during the Mandalorian Wars. She reunites with a droid that recognizes her as its master, and it tells her she somehow became incapacitated on the Harbinger and was locked away. The Ebon Hawk was acquired by the Harbinger sometime before the attack, upon which Meetra was shuttled on board and flown to the mining station. Atten then tells her there is an incoming ship. Unknown to them, on board is the Sith Lord Darth Sion, surrounded by a sea of dead bodies. The ship, which turns out to be the Harbinger, docks at the facility, and Kreia ominously warns Meetra he has come. Meetra discovers a faction of the miners looking to collect the bounty, sabotage the facility, and let loose the rogue droids. She reunites with Kreia, who reveals the hunter of the Ebon Hawk has at last arrived and that they must depart immediately. They seem to have a bond in the Force and make their way towards the Ebon Hawk, meeting up with Atton and the droid. However, they are tracked and followed by two invisible Sith assassins. The droid is revealed to be responsible for turning the droids against the miners, then driving the miners into their dormitories via several explosions. They were then all gassed and killed, leaving Meetra the only survivor. The droid claims to have been acting to protect Meetra, urging her to wait for rescue. Its client is revealed to be someone of considerable wealth, interested in coming into possession of one of the last Jedi alive. The droid then tries to prevent Meetra from escaping the mining facility, but she and her team are able to destroy it. Kreia senses no presences on board, and they decide to go to the Bridge of the Harbinger. Meetra learns the Harbinger was on its way to Telos 4, before receiving a distress signal from a small freighter claiming to be attacked by a Sith warship. Upon investigating, they found the Sith ship to be empty, as well as the freighter, revealed to be the Ebon Hawk. The Ebon Hawk was brought aboard the Harbinger, as well as a Sith corpse found by the recon teams. However, after some time, mechanical failures began to plague the Harbinger, and the corpse seemed to reawaken. Meetra races to the med lab, fighting off several shadowy assassins along the way. She finds more logs reporting the disappearance of crew members, as well as an investigation into the Sith corpse. Astonishingly, scientists cannot discern if he is actually alive or dead, for his body seems to be barely held together and has several thousand fractures. It is revealed then that the Sith reanimated, and with assassins took over the Harbinger. As Meetra, Atton, and Kreia race through the desolate ship, they encounter the Sith, Darth Sion, who resembles a reanimated corpse. Kreia rushes forward to confront him while Meetra and Atton continue towards the Ebon Hawk. They are forced to travel through the fuel lines as elsewhere. It is revealed that Kreia was the Sith's master before he betrayed her. They duel briefly, with the Sith cutting off Kreia's hand. Meetra senses her pain, indicative of the bond between them and the Force. She finds the droid T3M4, and they make it to the hangar. Atton fires up the ship as Meetra fights off Sith troopers from the turret. Kreia, who managed to survive, also makes it on board. The Harbinger opens fire on them as they jump to hyperspace, and hits an asteroid that causes a chain reaction. The Paraga system is destroyed, and on board, Kreia tells them they must head to Telos. On their way there, it is revealed that Kreia has been searching for Meetra for unknown reasons, and it is seemingly by coincidence that she found Meetra in one of the cargo holds unconscious. Meetra cannot believe she is among the last Jedi alive, but Kreia tells her the Order was greatly diminished after the Jedi Civil War. Many were killed or seduced by Revan's dark teachings, and the Academy on Dantooine was destroyed by Malak. The Temple on Coruscant was abandoned, and the philosophical teachings of the Order began to fall under scrutiny after the fall of Revan. The battle against the Sith now lies on Meetra's shoulders, and Kreia tells her she will need weapons, allies, and a teacher. Kreia seems to look down on both the Jedi and Sith, but is relatively unbothered by the loss of her hand. They arrive at Citadel Station above the Telos system. However, news has reached the station of the destruction of the Paragas mining facility, and Meetra's team is detained. However, after they are led away, a mysterious woman steals their shuttle and droid on board. A Telos Security Force agent visits them while in prison, and reveals he wishes to collect the bounty for the exchange. They are freed and quickly kill the assassin, and the rest of the TSF arrives. They are transferred to an apartment, where a representative of Choto Habat contacts them. Habat is the leader of the restoration movement on Telos, following its destructive bombardment by Admiral Kara during the Jedi Civil War. He is troubled by the Zerka Mining Corporation, which is looking to gain control over the restoration efforts. In exchange for their help, Habat will help heal Meetra's connection to the Force, a pain that he sensed when they first arrived. As Meetra meditates, Atton and Kreia fall into a discussion of the Force. Atton remarks how helpless and different the Jedi seem when deprived of it. Kreia agrees, telling Atten that in many ways he is stronger than the Jedi because he does not rely on it. The TSF's investigation concludes, and though Meetra and the others are cleared, they are asked to remain on the station until the arrival of the Sojourn, another Republic ship. Meetra decides to head down to the surface, where Kreia says there may be more Jedi. Kreia has continued to reshape Meetra's philosophy of the Force, saying it is important to examine situations from both the light and dark sides. She seems to disagree with the notion that all situations are clearly divided into light and dark outcomes, opting instead for a more holistic approach to matters. Meetra chooses to side with Habat rather than the Zerka Mining Corporation, and helps him expose the corruption of Zerka's alliance with the Exchange, handing Telos back to Habat and his people. However, Zerka then sends assassin droids after their party in retaliation. Barely managing to escape, Meetra and the others take a shuttle and fly down to the surface, but are shot down by a Zerka artillery barrage. As the Ebon Hawk has been stolen and apparently landed on Telos' hostile surface, they begin to track its location to confront the thief. In the meantime, Darth Nihilus, a partner of Darth Sion in the former Sith Triumvirate, and an assassin Visas Mar sense a disturbance in the Force. The Republic ship Sojourn also arrives at Telos, where the areas outside the relocation zones are dangerously toxic. Meetra's shuttle crashes on the surface, but they are saved by an Iridonian mechanic named Bao Dur, who served under her at Malachor 5. They make it to an abandoned military compound, fighting off mercenaries. It is discovered that the Ebon Hawk is somewhere in the polar regions of the planet. Conditions are rough, and they are forced to crash land again. Bao Dur is knocked unconscious. It turns out that assassin droids shot down their shuttle, and Meetra destroys them all. However, Bao Dur was taken by two mysterious women in white combat fatigues, wielding staffs. Meetra, Atten, and Kreia then find an entrance to a compound, and upon entering encounter the female soldiers and their leader. They are imprisoned, and Kreia deduces they are in an academy of sorts for Jedi. Additionally, she recognizes the leader to be Atris, a former historian of the Jedi Council and philosophical opponent of Revan, and, consequently, Meetra. She discovers Atten has a dark secret pertaining to the Jedi, and blackmails him into serving Meetra by threatening to expose it. Elsewhere, Meetra is brought before Atris, who wonders why she has returned from exile. It turns out her academy is composed not of Jedi, but of Chani sisters who are not Force-sensitive but still resistant to Force persuasion. Atris had supported the banishment of Meetra years ago, and now claims Meetra's party is being held for the destruction of Paragus. Additionally, because Citadel Station relies on Paragus fuel, it will eventually fall out of orbit and crash into Telos. She does not believe the miners were dead when Meetra first arrived, then draws out Meetra's own lightsaber. Meetra refuses to fight her, while Atris goes further, stating that once the station crashes into Telos, the restoration efforts for the planet and other worlds devastated by the Sith will be called off. And to Atris, this is another great evil committed by Meetra. Meetra tells her of the Sith presence on Paragus, and that they believe her to be the last Jedi alive. Atris is confident she can handle the Sith threat, and dismisses Meetra and her companions, saying they can take the Ebon Hawk back so long as they leave the planet. On board, T3 reveals it hacked into Atris' archives, and found a recording of Meetra's trial after the Mandalorian Wars. It is revealed that Atris took a stern stance against Meetra, believing she should have died on Malachor 5, and that she was lost to the dark side. Additionally, however, it is revealed that 4 Jedi Masters are actually still alive. Master Vrook on Dantooine, Master Zez Kai-El on Nar Shaddaa, Master Kavar on Onderon, and Master Vash on Korriban. They set out to find the Masters, and Meetra decides to build a new lightsaber. Kreia believes Meetra to be a natural leader, and tells her to prepare for more to flock to her side. She reinforces the fact that she is neither Jedi nor Sith, simply Meetra's teacher. They arrive at Nal Hutta, the crime-infested moon of Nar Shaddaa. However, despite the unsavory crowds, its large population will make it easy to remain inconspicuous but harder to find a Jedi in its masses. Meetra's team lands in the refugee sector, but are soon tracked and hunted by killers of Goto, the local exchange boss. The exchange has been exploiting the refugees of the recent war, using them as slaves and cheap labor. Kreia teaches Meetra that even small acts can lead to larger repercussions, and can lead to great power for good or evil. Meetra provokes the exchange into open conflict, killing several bounty hunters and slavers while helping refugees wherever she can. Visas Mar also arrives and ambushes Meetra, but Meetra overpowers her and shows mercy towards the apprentice of Nihilus. Mar is so moved that she is turned to the light side of the Force and joins Meetra's side as a steadfast companion. However, Meetra is later baited into a trap by the exchange boss Goto and is imprisoned in the Jek Tar Cantina. She kills the Korans Viscus and Sakesh, but is taken to Goto's flagship. The bounty hunter Mira fights the Wookiee Hanhar there, who is later found by Kreia. Kreia binds the Wookiee to a life debt, sending him to the planet of Malachor 5. There, she tasked him with waiting until the arrival of Meetra, upon which he was to kill Mira. Mira then joins Meetra's team as they work to find their leader. Meanwhile, Meetra manages to get in contact with Goto himself while imprisoned, who confides that he believes a lasting darkness, a legacy of the Sith, is manipulating events across the galaxy. He states he is not loyal to either the Jedi or the Sith, but simply wants peace and the perpetual cycle of conflict to end. Meetra ends up managing to destroy Goto's flagship, but discovers the Crime Lord is actually a projection of the droid G0T0, a rogue Republic planning droid. G0T0 is convinced to join Meetra's growing crew, which now works to free her. Later, Mira is discovered by Meetra to be Force-sensitive. She begins to teach the bounty hunter how to harness her powers, and in doing so gains another follower and apprentice of sorts. The exchange on Nar Shaddaa is overthrown, creating a power vacuum in the system. The Wookiee Hanhar then offers to lead Meetra and the others to Master Zez Kyle. Meetra at last finds the Jedi, who reveals the Jedi have scattered to try and lure their hidden Sith enemies out into the open. She also learns that the Masters were not the ones who cut her off from the Force, and receives no clear answer on how to end the Force bond she has with Kreia. Meetra learns a new lightsaber fighting style from Zez Kyle, and manages to convince him to go to the ruins of the Jedi Enclave on Dantooine. Her team now includes Visas Mar and the Achani sister, as well as Mira and Hanhar. As her training with Kreia to rebuild her connection to the Force continues, she prepares to inevitably face off with Darth Sion and Darth Nihilus. Kreia additionally urges her to find her own way, and that the others are drawn to her because they see Meetra is untethered to any higher power. Meetra fixes the assassin droid HK-47, and learns from Atton how to shield her mind from others. Atton reveals he was formerly affiliated with the Sith, as he was previously working for Revan. However, one day a female Jedi reached out to him, claiming she was there to save him. Apparently, she warned him that Revan was capturing Jedi and torturing them in the unknown regions in order to turn them to the dark side. She wished to warn Atton because it turns out he is Force-sensitive as well. Atton was a Jedi hunter at the time, a special unit under Revan that was able to hide their presences in the Force and hunted Jedi for the Dark Lords. Atton tortured the female Jedi until she showed the Force in him. He killed her nonetheless, but soon after realized he loved her for changing him and saving his life. Atton became racked with guilt, and left the Jedi hunters and fled to Nar Shaddaa. Now he follows Meetra, believing that may be his purpose after all. Meetra agrees to train him in the ways of the Force, as a slow bond begins to grow between them. The crew's next destination is Onderon, where they encounter a large blockade and Kreia senses a great disturbance in the Force. There is a long line to get into the local spaceport. Then, Colonel Tobin of Onderon hails them, and opens fire on the Ebon Hawk. They flee to the nearby moon of Duxon, the site of the outbreak of the Mandalorian Wars. Kreia senses something on the moon, and suggests exploring the moon to uncover more of Meetra's past. After they head out, Atton relays that another ship has landed somewhere on Duxon. They turn out to be bounty hunters, who are quickly dispatched by Meetra. She and her companions then discover the body of a Mandalorian, indicating that they are present to some extent on the moon. They are then cornered by a squad of Mandalorians, who take them to their leader. At the Mandalorians' camp, Meetra meets Mandalore the Preserver, Canderous Ordo. He looks to rebuild the Mandalorians, and Meetra asks him for aid in reaching the main planet. As she helps with various missions around the camp, Kreia also trains her on how to gain control over animals. Forces from Onderon and Colonel Tobin also drop in to hunt Meetra, but are repelled by her and the Mandalorians. Tobin answers to General Vaklu, the cousin of Queen Talia of Onderon and commander of the Onderonian military. Over time, Meetra proves her worth to the Mandalorians in Mandalore through the missions, and now Canderous Ordo agrees to take her to Isis. Then, Sith assassins attack the camp, having somehow tracked Meetra and Kreia. Meetra and Canderous quickly fly to Onderon, where a massive space battle rages, started by the arrival of the Ebon Hawk. On the surface, it is revealed that General Vaklu is making a power grab against Queen Talia. Meetra and Canderous land in Isis, which is close to being put under martial law. Onderon is on the verge of civil war, and Vaklu is pressing the planet to secede from the Republic. There is great tension between the people of Isis and the Beast Riders, who are being persecuted by Vaklu. Meetra finds herself aligning with Queen Talia's cause, and through an intermediary of Canderous is able to get into contact with Master Kavar. They meet in a cantina, but Tobin arrives to arrest the Jedi. Kavar flees, promising to get back in contact with Meetra. Canderous and Meetra return to Duxon, where Canderous offers to join Meetra and help her fight the Sith. Additionally, he hopes to find more remnants of Mandalorian clans to bring into his reunification movement. They board the repaired Ebon Hawk and begin to travel to Dantooine. Upon landing, Meetra is directed to meet with the Kunda Outpost Administrator, who kept a semblance of structure after the devastation of the Sith attack. Many mercenaries have congregated on the planet, representing both sides from the Mandalorian Wars. Additionally, the locals distrust the Jedi and the Enclave, believing they were responsible for bringing ruin to the planet. Meetra learns a mysterious thief has been hitting the settlers, and the local government believes the salvagers and mercenaries to be responsible. Meetra learns the administrator is friends with Master Vrook of the Jedi High Council, but that he went missing investigating a mercenary named Azkul and his gang. Vrook was last seen in the sub-level of the Enclave ruins. Meetra is also apprised of the local militia leader Zeron, who seems to be provoking the mercenaries deliberately. She meets with him, and is told the ruins are overrun with dangerous Kinrath. Meetra sets out for the ruins, battling Kinrath and journeying into the Crystal Caves. Kreia mentions that she was able to sense that Revan once traveled on their path, and that perhaps one day future Jedi will sense them as well. Meetra encounters the mercenary gang of Azkul, which seems to be planning for something big on behalf of a powerful organization. They had been hit by the local thief as well, and Meetra and her companions soon reach the Enclave ruins. Kreia says it is a wound in the Force, and will attract many Jedi if they are able to gather significant numbers. They journey down to the sublevel, fighting off many hostile Lagreks along the way. She finds a Padawan hiding in the ruins, and learns that they are the local thief. After guiding the Padawan to a better path in life not reliant on theft, Meetra continues on. She enters a large chamber, and there encounters another Jedi survivor. He is Michael, a historian and scientist. Michael is laboring to help the Republic find the Jedi, and looks to help their efforts on Telos and Onderon. He departs for the Kunda Outpost, and Meetra then comes across the bodies of 3 dead mercenaries. It is then revealed that Master Vrook has been abducted and taken to the Crystal Caves by Azkul's gang. Meetra leaves the ruins and returns to the caves, where she encounters the mercenaries and an imprisoned Vrook. She defeats the mercenaries, and is recognized immediately by Vrook as the Exile. He claims the Jedi did not cut her off from the Force, and also departs for Kunda. Meetra leaves the caves and is confronted by Azkul. He wishes to attack Kunda and seize power on Dantooine for himself. Azkul tries to convince her to join his forces, but she rejects his offer. He departs, and Meetra kills the mercenaries sent after her and returns to Kunda for the impending attack. She aids the Administrator and Zeron in bolstering the defenses just before the battle breaks out. Oscul is killed as Master Vrook also joins the defense. In the aftermath, Vrook agrees to meet with the other masters in due time. Michael joins the crew as a follower of Meetra. Kreia is particularly interested in him and decides to manipulate his mind so he knows her true identity and goals, but only she will still have the power to reveal them. Meetra returns to the Ebon Hawk and receives news that Master Kavar wishes to meet with her again. She travels to Duxon, where Kreia soon detects the presence of a Sith outpost nearby. Several of the crew head off to investigate, and it turns out the Sith have gathered a force near the tomb of Freedon Nad. This troop movement coincides with the outbreak of the Onderon Civil War. It is revealed that Darth Nihilus is allied with the separatist rebels fighting Queen Talia, and is in close contact with Colonel Tobin and General Vaklu. Meetra and several companions are able to reach Isis with the help of the Mandalorians. The Sith threat on Duxon is destroyed, but Meetra and Kreia are locked in fierce street fighting as they battle towards the royal palace. Talia and her royalist forces conduct a final desperate stand in the palace as the Separatist and Sith forces close in, the city falling to ruin. Tobin tries to use a Drexel to disable the throne room shields to assassinate Talia. However, the Drexel goes on a rampage, badly wounding him. Meetra storms by, leaving him for dead as she pursues Vaklu. She is able to reach the throne room in time, and she kills Vaklu's men and corners the rebel general. Kreia then whispers in her ear, claiming Vaklu is too dangerous to be left alive. She believes he should be executed for his crimes, but Meetra stands aside, telling Talia the choice is her own. Talia makes the call to kill Vaklu nonetheless, but now Kreia becomes wary of the threat Meetra may pose to the Sith Triumvirate. After the Onderon Civil War comes to an end, Kreia finds Tobin in secret and heals him. Knowing he is working for Nihilus, she lies to him and tells Tobin that the Jedi are gathering on Telos 4. She hopes to draw Nihilus to the planet where Atris resides. Meetra finally meets up with Master Kavar and is able to convince him to reunite with the other masters on Dantooine. Back on the Ebon Hawk, Meetra continues her training under Kreia, slowly rebuilding her connection to the Force. Their next destination is Korriban for the final Jedi Master, who is believed to be hiding in the ruins of Revan and Malak's academy. Kreia then reveals that Revan disappeared after the defeat of Malak, his destination unknown. Korriban will be dangerous, for a great darkness still lingers on the planet. Charred bodies of the Sith litter the planet's surface amidst the ancient tombs of the Sith Lords. Meetra explores the academy, unaware that Darth Sion and his shadow assassins are lurking inside. She fights off the assassins and finds an abandoned holocron. A woman appears, telling Meetra how the Sith began to succumb to infighting after Revan went missing, for they all looked to control the Star Forge for themselves. She moves on and finds a room with prison cells. There, Jedi Master Luna Vash lies dead. As her team sets out to leave the academy, their mission fruitless, Darth Sion appears and confronts them. He tells her Kreia is desperately clinging to Meetra's power and reveals that she was his master. Sion wishes to see Kreia dead and attacks Meetra and the others with more assassins. However, Sion cannot be killed on Korriban, where the dark side fuels his powers and allows him to live through fatal wounds. Meetra is able to flee with her companions and escapes the academy. Before departing Korriban, Meetra explores the unplundered tomb of the Sith Lord Ludo Kresh. She sees a vision of Malak when he was a Jedi, urging her and others to join the revanchist movement. A following vision brings her to the Second Battle of Duxon in the Mandalorian Wars, where Meetra gave orders for her troops to advance against the enemy in spite of heavy losses. A final vision appears, this time of Revan himself. He attacks her, and Meetra defeats the vision and leaves the tomb. She returns to the Ebon Hawk and prepares to travel back to Dantooine, where the surviving Jedi Masters have gathered. Meetra finds Masters Kavar, Vrook, and Zez Kaiel at the Enclave, where they have formed a rudimentary council. There she learns that as a Jedi, she had a unique connection to the Force that attracted other Force sensitives to her side. the reason so many Jedi joined her in the Mandalorian Wars. However, after the detonation of the mass shadow generator at Malachor 5, these connections turned into pain and anguish, and Meetra instinctively severed her connection to the Force. It transformed her into a wound in the Force, and Kreia then reveals the catastrophic events at Malachor 5 created rippling echoes across the galaxy. Those echoes have the ability to affect Force sensitives, and if not stopped will build on each other until all Force sensitives are killed. Meetra's travels as an exile have contributed to the building of the echoes inadvertently, and she has also been drawing on the life energy of her companions to rebuild her connection to the Force, all without her knowing. Darth Sion and Darth Nihilus, also wounds in the Force, operate on a similar power, but through the dark side unleash much more devastating effects. Darth Nihilus in particular troubles the Council, for he has gained the power to consume all living things and is rapidly approaching the apex of his might. They worry Meetra herself may come to rival his power, and decide to strip her of the Force for good. The Council puts her in stasis, but then Kreia attacks, disgusted with her blindness and incompetence. Kreia unleashes her powers on the Masters, draining them of their connections to the Force. As a lesson of sorts, the Masters do not relinquish their connection to the Force easily, and all die having felt the same agony as Meetra did on Malachor 5. Kreia then departs, leaving an incapacitated Meetra. Meetra manages to recover and returns to the Ebon Hawk, where Atton has deduced that Kreia has headed to Telos. Meetra is greatly shaken by the revelations on Dantooine, knowing that Kreia seeks for the death of the Force itself. She also knows that Darth Sion and Darth Nihilus are still lurking in the galaxy. Kreia, meanwhile, makes it to Telos with the guidance of the Achani handmaiden Brianna, one of Meetra's companions. She arrives and confronts Atris, the last of the Jedi. Kreia reveals that she was once Darth Traya, but cast aside that title when she found her new purpose in the galaxy. However, Kreia then proclaims that there must always be a Darth Traya. She deems Atris a suitable replacement, for it is revealed that Atris has already become seduced by the dark knowledge of the Sith. She has hoarded Sith holocrons, but Kreia tells her that Meetra may still be able to be saved. It is such a quiet thing to fall, but far more terrible is to admit it. Kreia departs, and Atris then attacks the handmaiden Brianna for betraying her sisters. She blasts her with Force lightning as Meetra herself arrives. They begin to duel, and Meetra gains the upper hand and wounds her. Atris confesses that Kreia has gone to Malachor 5 to create an even greater wound in the Force. There she believes that the Force itself can be killed, and Meetra decides to leave Atris on Telos to await the judgment of her new Jedi Council. Then, Kreia telepathically speaks to Meetra, revealing that a Sith Lord is en route to Telos. It is Darth Nihilus, led on by Kreia's lies to Colonel Tobin. The fueling point of Citadel Station is attacked and nearly overrun. However, reinforcements from the Kunda militia and Onderonian military arrive to help fight the Sith, the fruit of Meetra's efforts on Dantooine and Onderon. Mandalore the Preserver, seeking to reclaim the glory of the clans, also came to fight in the battle, and with the arrival of Meetra herself as well, the Sith are driven back from Citadel Station. Meetra then plans to assault Nihilus's flagship, the Ravager. A Republic fleet led by Admirals Cartho Nasi and Seed then arrives, and Mandalore and Visas Mar offer to accompany Meetra in her mission. Meetra's team breaks in, and fights through Sith troopers on a warpath towards Nihilus. Along the way, they place proton cores throughout the ship to destroy it. Meetra then encounters a gaunt Colonel Tobin, who is being consumed by the power of Nihilus. It is revealed that Nihilus still believes the Jedi are on Telos, but if the ruse is discovered, Telos will be wholly consumed and destroyed. Tobin warns the power of Nihilus is immense, and that the Ravager itself was ripped from the destruction of Malachor 5. Meetra convinces him to join their side for the sake of Onderon, and continues on to the ship's bridge. She finds Nihilus as the battle rages outside. She and Visas attack, and after a brief duel, Darth Nihilus is killed. Meetra takes his mask as a trophy, and his body vanishes in an explosion of dark energy. She then makes preparations for the final confrontation with Kreia on Malachor 5. And on that haunted world, Kreia, now Darth Traya once more, confronts Darth Sion and overpowers him, turning her former apprentice back to serving her will. She commands Sion to bring Meetra when she lands. Upon arriving at Malachor, Meetra makes her way towards the Traya's academy, amidst the sea of pain and the crushing gravity of the planet. After a long, arduous trek, she reaches the academy and learns from a recording by the engineer Bao Dur that it is somehow possible to heal the wound in the Force by activating 4 ships affected by the gravitational anomaly. Meetra's disciples find Kreia in the heart of the Traya's academy, but are knocked out and imprisoned. Atton confronts Darth Sion and cuts him down. Meetra herself finally reaches the main halls. She frees her followers and orders Mandalore to evacuate them to safety. Continuing on, Meetra battles more Sith and Dark Jedi until she finds Darth Sion. She learns Kreia was a former master of Revan, and then Sion attacks. They both know he cannot be killed while on the Bastion of Dark Power. However, Meetra slowly erodes his confidence in Kreia until Sion is at last convinced to let go of his pain. He releases all of his anger and falls and dies. Meetra moves on and finds Kreia herself. Her former teacher, Darth Traya, reasserts that the Force must die. It is said the Force has a will. It has a destiny for us all. I wield it, but it uses us all, and that is abhorrent to me. Because I hate the Force. I hate that it seems to have a will, that it would control us to achieve some measure of balance when countless lives are lost. But in you, I see the potential to see the Force die, to turn away from its will, and that is what pleases me. You are beautiful to me, Exile, a dead spot in the Force, an emptiness in which its will might be denied. Through Meetra, Kreia was able to extinguish both the Jedi Council and the Sith, and expose Atris's corruption before it could spread. Meetra was wholly unique because of her choice to sever herself entirely from the Force. Now, Kreia dictates that Meetra must kill her, and refuses to be saved. She knows her and Meetra's bond in the Force is strong, and will prove lethal to the other upon the death of one of them. They begin to fight, and Meetra cuts off Kreia's hand. She refuses to kill Kreia still, but now Kreia summons 3 lightsabers with the Force and sends them all in a storm at Meetra. She is forced to continue fighting, and mortally wounds Kreia. Kreia deems Meetra the greatest of all those she trained, and as a parting gift imparts some final knowledge. For her companions will form the new Jedi Order, and Meetra will be their leader and teacher. Kreia also foretells the great diminishing of the Mandalorians, for one will die in the far future, too easily slain by a Jedi. Meetra is told she must follow the path of Revan into the unknown regions, for he was investigating the true threat to the galaxy, the Sith that had been hiding in wait. Revan had left his wife Bastila behind, as well as the Ebon Hawk and its droids. Kreia then dies, and Meetra prepares to depart Malachor 5. The mass shadow generator is reactivated, consuming the planet once and for all. It vanishes into nothingness, leaving behind a large debris field, and the painful echoes of the Mandalorian Wars finally vanish. Meetra is rescued, and departs the system in search of Revan. Three years have passed since Revan left Coruscant to investigate his nightmares. Bastila Shan has given birth to a son named Banner, who is 3 years old. The past years have been chaotic, with the fragmented Jedi Order being put under great duress. The rise of the rogue Jedi Kreia, who rechristened herself as Darth Traya, saw the deaths of many Jedi Knights and Masters and the resurgence of the ones who called themselves Sith. Yet Traya was defeated, for it was the Exile, Meetra Surik, who unexpectedly returned to the galaxy and drove away the Sith. Like Revan, Meetra became the savior of the galaxy after her villainous acts in the Mandalorian Wars. Revan has not been seen for years, but now Meetra visits Bastila and her son on Coruscant. Bastila learns that Canderous Ordo is the new Mandalore, his rise aided by Revan. The droid T3 then shows Meetra and Bastila a recording of Revan's abduction, where he is seen being taken away by a red-skinned Sith warrior. It is clear the true Sith remains somewhere in the galaxy. The droid HK-47 was also discovered by T3 and was given to the Jedi for safekeeping. Meetra is troubled by T3's account of Nathema, for it reminds her of the infamous Battle of Malachor V. However, to learn more about the fate of Revan and the Sith, she decides she must travel to Nathema. Before she departs, Bastila gives her a hollow recording of Vanner and Revan's old battle mask, hoping it may restore some of his memories. Meetra worries that those memories may turn him to the dark side once more, but Bastila, surprisingly, declares she is willing to take that risk. Meetra flies to Nathema, and immediately senses the great wound in the Force emanating from the lifeless planet. It is a cold emptiness that washes over her as she lands by Revan's crash site with T3. They head to a nearby government building to try and learn more about Nathema and how it came to be the way it is. Leaving the planet before it destroys her sanity, she learns of the Sith Emperor Vitiate's rise, fueled by panic and fear. However, Meetra now has a final destination, Dromund Kaas itself. There, Revan is still in captivity, detained by Lord Scourge. Though he and Nyrus have determined that Revan did indeed manage to break free of the Emperor's command, Revan cannot help them find weaknesses against the Emperor owing to his lost memories. Nyrus has become disinterested in Revan in the past 6 months, but Scourge is drawn to the Jedi's immense strength in the Force. He begins to ask Revan philosophical questions about the Force, looking to learn what he can. Revan, though in a constantly drugged state, can sense Scourge's ambitions for power. So he plays his game, feeding the Sith enough information to keep him interested, while in the process learning more about the Sith Empire. Most importantly, Revan now knows the Emperor plans to invade the Republic soon and of the schemes of the Dark Council. Presently, Scourge speaks with Revan and expresses his souring opinion of Nyrus, whose inaction against the Emperor in the recent months has frustrated him. Revan attempts to manipulate him into helping him escape by bluffing his escape is inevitable, but is unsuccessful. Scourge leaves him again, but while meditating, Revan suddenly has a vision of Meetra Surik. He instantly realizes that she is coming to rescue him, and that the clock has started ticking. Meetra herself soon lands on Dromund Kaas, maintaining a low profile. She trades several diamonds for credits, and a meeting with none other than Nyrus' advisor Setchel. Meetra soon meets with him in the Nexus room, and asks him for information on a certain Sith. Not wanting to expose Revan for obvious reasons, she instead asks Setchel about his Sith abductor. Setchel immediately recognizes Scourge, a reaction quickly noted by Meetra. She is able to set up another meeting, this time with Scourge himself. Setchel then travels to see the Sith, who is wary of Setchel setting up a trap for him. He wonders if Meetra is a relative of one of his assassination victims, but agrees to see her nonetheless. At the meeting, Scourge sends a security team to ambush Meetra. She kills them all, but blows her cover and is revealed to be a Jedi. Scourge is astonished, for he believes her arrival was foretold to him by Revan earlier. Though it is sheer coincidence, Scourge is taken aback by the power shown by both Meetra and Revan. He comes to believe it is the will of the Force that they work together, and proposes that he takes Meetra to Revan, where they will collaborate to take down the Sith Emperor. Scourge tells Meetra to meet him in one day, then sets off to tie up loose ends. He tricks Setchel into going to a false meeting with Murtagh, and kills Murtagh and forces Setchel to hand over files exposing Nyrus and the Dark Council as traitors. He then kills Setchel and shows the files to Meetra, who learns of the Council's unsuccessful conspiracy and constant backstabbing. Scourge then sets out for the Citadel of the Emperor, knowing he only has so much time before Nyrus learns of Setchel and Murtagh's deaths. He plans to expose the conspiracy to the Emperor while hiding his own involvement so Nyrus can be eliminated. Scourge manages to bluff his way past the Citadel guards and into the throne room, where he prepares to meet one of the most powerful Force users to ever exist in the galaxy. The throne room is massive, and the Emperor whirls around in his throne to face Scourge. His voice resonates eerily, and his eyes are black voids. Careful to not let anything slip, Scourge presents the data files and exposes the conspiracy. The Emperor betrays nothing and seems to wordlessly communicate with someone outside. He dismisses Scourge, but briefly gives the Sith a glimpse of his true form in his mind. The touch lasted less than a second, but in that time he witnessed indescribable horrors that dwarfed anything the dark side could conjure, even in his worst nightmares. And beneath the formless terrors lurked the unbearable void, the pure emptiness of total annihilation. Scourge leaves the throne room, with the Emperor telling him he will be inducted into the Dark Council if his information proves to be good. He and Meetra then infiltrate Nyrus' stronghold in order to free Revan, with Meetra posing as a slave. An explosion suddenly rocks the compound, signaling the arrival of the Imperial Guard. The Emperor has struck quickly, far sooner than Scourge anticipated. Nyrus' forces are sent into disarray, and Scourge and Meetra rush towards the dungeons. They find Revan, and he and Meetra embrace. Revan stumbles to his feet, and Meetra then gives him his old Mandalorian mask. As he puts it on, waves of memories overwhelm him, and he passes out. Then, Nyrus herself arrives and attacks Scourge and Meetra. Energy crackles around her as she strikes with power and ferocity, sending Scourge flying back. Meetra is hit with a bolt of lightning, barely deflecting it but getting knocked down as well. But then Revan arises, a cold, new aura around him, and still wearing the mask stands in front of Nyrus. Waves of lightning surge towards him. I am Revan reborn, and before me you are nothing. Revan redirects the lightning right back at Nyrus, and his counterattack is so powerful she is instantly vaporized. He moves with a new, quiet surety that unnerves Meetra. She and Revan return to Meetra's hideout, while Scourge leaves them for supplies and to learn more about the Emperor's strike. Revan at last removes his mask to watch the holo recording of Bastila and his son Vanner. Scourge returns and informs them the entire Dark Council was purged, even the members not involved in the conspiracy. Martial law is imposed on Kaas City, and Dromund Kaas is placed under quarantine. Revan tells Scourge and Meetra how he and Malak discovered the Emperor and will return to the Dark, and that the Emperor's endgame is to rule over an empty, lifeless galaxy for eternity. He offers to teach them how to shield their minds from the will of the Emperor as they rest up for their strike against the Citadel. That night, however, Scourge has his first Force vision. Revan is shown dead, and he and Meetra lay dying at the feet of the Emperor. He decides to keep it a secret from the Jedi, as Revan confides to Scourge his main goal is to ensure peace for his child. This does not necessarily mean killing the Emperor outright, but perhaps delaying his schemes. For the Emperor does not know if Malak is still alive, and Revan hopes he may be able to buy time for a hero to rise up against the Emperor. The Force always strives for balance. The Emperor is an agent of darkness and destruction. It is inevitable that a champion of the light will one day rise to oppose him. As dawn breaks and they head for the Citadel, Revan finds himself drawing on the middle ground between the light and dark sides for strength and clarity. He knows Scourge is troubled, particularly by the idea that Revan is willing to sacrifice his own life for the mission. They arrive at the Citadel, and Scourge gains them access inside. The party is led just outside the throne room, but by ill luck Captain Yari of the Sith arrives. She was the duplicitous guard years ago who let Revan and Malak into the Citadel, reporting to the Emperor behind their backs the entire time. Yari immediately recognizes Revan, and a fight breaks out. Revan, Scourge, and Meetra, accompanied by the droid T3, conduct a fighting retreat into the throne room. Scourge and Meetra try to hold off the Citadel guards as Revan charges the Emperor. Yari and all the guards are killed, and the Emperor stands motionless as he tries to dominate Revan's mind once more. A powerful wave of Force energy sends the Jedi flying back at the last moment. Revan deflects a bolt of Force lightning but is stopped cold in his tracks. The Emperor conjures a force storm like Nyrus's, but magnitudes more powerful. It overwhelms Revan and electrocutes him, his flesh beginning to melt. But the droid T3 charges at the Emperor with a flamethrower, breaking his concentration and freeing Revan. T3 is instantly destroyed, and the Emperor strides over to a prone Revan to land the killing blow. However, Meetra flings her lightsaber in an act of desperation. It strikes the lightsaber of Revan held by the Emperor and disarms him. Revan, Meetra, and Scourge then confront the Emperor. But suddenly, waves of visions wash over Scourge, who realizes he now stands at a crucial point in history. He cannot decipher most of them, but one emerges clearly: the Emperor lying dead at the hand of a Jedi who is neither Revan nor Meetra. Scourge acts quickly, stepping to the side and allowing Meetra to pass in front of him. He stabs her in the back, and she falls as a shocked Revan whirls around. The Emperor blasts him with lightning, knocking him out. Scourge lies and tells the Emperor he brought the Jedi here to be killed, and as a test is told to finish off Revan. However, as he brings his blade down, the Emperor stops him, saying he still has a use for the fallen Jedi. Scourge is promoted to the position of the Emperor's Wrath, the enforcer and executioner of the Empire. Additionally, he is granted eternal life, and he looks to use this to find more opportunities to overthrow the Empire and stop the destruction of the galaxy. Immortality is granted to Scourge in a ceremony conducted by the Emperor, but his insides are suddenly racked with a burning pain. The Emperor tells him this is the price of immortality, and over time he will grow emotionless and numb to the pain. Despite the defeat of Revan, he has managed to delay the invasion of the Republic. The Emperor decides to reconsolidate his strength on Dromund Kaas and reform the Dark Council. Revan himself is put in a stasis cell far away from Dromund Kaas. He now has a mental link with the Emperor, who looks to feed off Revan's power to sustain himself. But Revan is aided in his mental war by Meetra, whose spirit lingers outside his cell and strengthens him when she can. Revan is now locked in a perpetual battle of wills with the Emperor, who probes his thoughts to learn more about the Jedi and the Republic. But Revan fights back, determined to delay the Emperor further so his wife and son can live their lives in peace. He plants seeds of doubt in the Emperor's mind where he can, and reinforces his fear of death. It will be a thankless, endless fight, but one that Revan takes on for his family. Vanner and Bastila lived for several decades in peace, but the absence of Revan still hurts Bastila. Vanner is a prominent politician and never ended up joining the Jedi Order, instead helping with the Republic reconstruction efforts. Bastila is able to take solace in the fact that though Revan disappeared, it seems the threat he set off to face was dispelled for a time. For now, there is peace in the Republic.